My fiancée said, "I need space. Don't disturb me." Then a few days later, she posted pictures with her ex. So I gave her exactly what she wanted. I canceled the wedding, changed the locks, and sold the car. 10 days later, she came back, panicking. "Hey everyone, before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel's been losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, it's free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world to us. So let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. All right, Reddit." I was engaged until my fiancée suddenly hit me with, "I need space." I respected her wishes. Didn't argue. Didn't beg. Just gave her space. But a few days later, her friend sent me screenshots, and there she was, vacationing with her ex. I didn't say a word. "I just got to work." By the time she came back, her key didn't work. Her car was gone, and so was her place in my life. Here's how it all went down. Let me start from the beginning. I'm a 29-year-old guy. I own a custom motorcycle shop in Phoenix. Decent money, nothing crazy, but enough to live comfortably here in Arizona. I've been grinding since I was 20. Finally got the shop fully established last year, after busting my ass 60+ hours a week for years. I started with just me in a tiny garage space I rented from an old mechanic who was retiring. Now I've got 4 full-time employees and a reputation for some of the cleanest custom work in the Southwest. The shop wasn't handed to me on a silver platter either. I saved every dollar I made working at other shops, took night classes in business management, and lived in a studio apartment the size of a shoebox for 3 years just to build my capital. There's something deeply satisfying about walking into my shop every morning, knowing every bolt, every tool, every square inch of that place is there because I earned it. Never been the type to splurge on fancy stuff. My dad watched his brother lose everything in a nasty divorce back in the 90s, house, retirement savings, even had to liquidate his small business to pay the settlement. Dad drilled financial responsibility into my head from day one. "Luke, build your own safety net because nobody else will." That advice turned out to be a lifesaver. I remember when I bought my first proper tool set. Dad came over to my apartment, saw me organizing those brand new snap-on wrenches and just nodded. "Good investment," he said. "Tools make money. Toys don't." Then he helped me build a custom storage solution for them using scrap wood from his garage. That's my dad. Practical advice followed by practical help. I bought my apartment 3 years ago when the market dipped slightly. The rest of my money goes straight to investment accounts in the shop. The only exceptions to my frugal lifestyle? My Ducati Monster, midnight black with a custom exhaust that sounds like pure mechanical poetry. And my dog Max, a 3-year-old German Shepherd who's been with me since he was a puppy. I'd take Max to the shop sometimes. Customers loved him. He'd just chill by my office, occasionally greeting people with a tennis ball in his mouth. Max has been the most consistent relationship in my life. No drama, no complaints about working late. Just pure loyalty. He's the kind of companion who's equally happy going for a mountain run or just lying at your feet while you work on engine blueprints. My fiancée, Stacy, 27, female, and I had been together for 2 years, engaged for the last 6 months. Wedding planned for this fall. We'd already put down deposits on the venue, catering, the works. She moved into my apartment after the first year. Things seemed good on the surface. She had her career, I had mine with the shop. We had the whole future mapped out. Meeting Stacy felt like fate at the time. A friend of a friend introduced us at a housewarming party. She was gorgeous. Blonde hair, always perfectly styled, the kind of woman who turns heads when she walks into a room. Smart, too. She always had the right thing to say to clients and knew exactly how to work a room. Our first few dates were perfect. She seemed genuinely interested in my business, asked all the right questions, laughed at my jokes. But thinking back now, there were red flags I ignored. She'd make comments about my friends being too basic because they like sports and gaming. She once called my best friend Tristan's apartment a man cave nightmare just because he had gaming consoles and a big TV. Tristan never liked her much. He said she had princess vibes and that she always acted differently around certain people. "Notice how she talks to that waiter versus how she talks to your landlord," he'd say. And he was right. It was like watching 2 completely different people. I brushed it off. I need space. Yeah, I saw her as socially adaptable. That's what we do, right? As guys, we see what we want to see. When a woman who could be on a magazine cover starts showing interest, we ignore the warning signs. Classic male programming error. But I brushed all of that off because I thought we were solid. The sex was great. She looked amazing on my arm at industry events, and I thought I'd found someone who actually respected my grind. When she hinted at marriage, I thought, why not? I was established, ready to start the next chapter. It was a random evening in May. I was prepping dinner. Yeah, I did most of the cooking, even after working all day at the shop, while she was too tired from sitting at a desk. Then my phone buzzed. Luke, things feel complicated. I'm stressing over the wedding, and I really need some space to think and figure things out. Don't contact me for a while, please. I'll reach out when I'm ready. Gut punch doesn't even begin to describe it. 6 months before our wedding, and she needs space? No warning, no conversation. Just a text asking me to essentially disappear while she figured things out. Fine. I tried to be understanding. I texted back, okay, I understand. Take the time you need. Then nothing. Radio silence. Just like she'd asked for. I spent the next couple of days in a fog, couldn't focus at work. I was trying to finish a custom seat for a 72 Triumph when Tristan stopped by the shop. He watched me sand the leather for like 20 minutes before saying, dude, that seat was done half an hour ago. You're just going through the motions. He was right. I put down the tools, closed the shop early, first time in months. Tristan came over Thursday night with pizza and said, dude, this isn't normal. Nobody asks for space 6 months before their wedding. Unless they're doing shady shit. At first, I defended her. Maybe she's just stressed about the wedding. Her mom's been putting a lot of pressure on her about the guest list. Even to my own ears, it sounded weak. Tristan just gave me that look, the one that says, you're smarter than this without having to say a word. He's been my friend since high school. Seen me through my mom's death. Helped me move the shop twice. Never asked for anything in return, just the kind of friend who shows up with tools when you mention a project, not excuses when you need help. Then Friday night, I got a text from Stacy's friend, Melissa. She's one of Stacy's coworkers who I'd always gotten along with. Luke, I think you should see this. I feel bad showing you, but you deserve to know. Attached was a screenshot from Stacy's Instagram close friends story, one that Melissa was part of. There was Stacy looking ridiculously happy, arm in arm with Jordan, her ex-boyfriend. The caption read, living our best lives. Island getaway reunited. Sometimes you need to revisit the past to see your future clearly. My blood ran cold. Space to think meant a tropical vacation with her ex, while explicitly asking me for no contact, and she was dumb enough to post it on her close friend story, forgetting that Melissa and I were friendly. I called Melissa for details. Turns out Stacy had told everyone at work she was taking vacation days for a family emergency. Apparently, the emergency involved bikinis, piña coladas, and her ex-boyfriend's tongue down her throat in several other photos Melissa sent me. The hurt turned into something else. A cold, hard clarity. She didn't just want space. She wanted me out of the way while she test drove her old relationship, keeping me as a backup plan in my own apartment, using my resources while telling me to leave her alone. All while the wedding venues had my deposits, and her engagement ring sat on her finger in those beach photos. Fine. Saturday morning, I went into tactical mode. First call, wedding venue, canceled. Lost the $5,000 deposit, but whatever, cheaper than divorce. Second call, caterer. Another $2,000 gone. Then the photographer, the florist, the DJ, one by one, I methodically erased the wedding she'd spent months planning. Next call, locksmith. Had the deadbolt and knob lock on my apartment door changed. Cost me about $250, but honestly, worth every penny. I spent the next hour going through paperwork, documenting everything I'd paid for versus what she had. The reality was sobering. My contribution had been about 80% of our shared expenses. Next, the ring. Stacy had conveniently left it on her nightstand before she left. Probably didn't want tan lines in her beach pics with Jordan. A 3-carat diamond that cost me nearly $15,000. I put it in my safe along with the documentation showing I had purchased it. In Arizona, engagement rings are considered conditional gifts. Now the car, this requires some context. About 6 months ago, Stacy's old Honda finally died. Timing belt went, bent the valves. Would have cost more to fix than the car was worth. She needed reliable transportation for client meetings, but her credit was trash after maxing out credit cards on designer bags and those $300 face creams. I agreed to help. Bought a used but decent Mazda 6 for about $18,000. The loan, title, and insurance were all solely in my name. I wasn't stupid. My dad's brother made that mistake. Let his ex-wife drive a car he was paying for during their separation. She totaled it. Wasn't properly insured, and he still had to pay off the loan while being sued by the other driver. Not happening to me. I called my dad that night. Needed his perspective. Dad, Stacy asked for space, then went to Hawaii with her ex. I'm changing the locks and selling her car. Dead silence for a moment. Then he said, son, your Uncle Dave lost his house over less. You're doing what needs to be done. Then he cleared his throat. Need help moving furniture? The understanding was that Stacy would make payments to me for the car, which she did, sometimes late, but legally it was 100% mine. Never added her to anything. I took the spare key, drove the car to a dealership that buys used cars. Told them, I'm the registered owner. Need to sell. They offered me around $16,500 pending inspection. I signed the initial paperwork and left the car there. Her designated parking spot at the apartment complex? Empty. The manager at the dealership raised an eyebrow when I explained I was selling my fiancée's car. I just shrugged and said she wanted space. I'm giving her about 6,500 square feet of it. Called Tristan to pick me up. He was impressed. Damn, you're ice cold right now, he said. But she deserves it. We spent the weekend boxing up her stuff from the apartment. Not throwing it out, just getting it ready. Every designer shoe, I counted 37 pairs. Every overpriced handbag. Every piece of jewelry I'd given her for birthdays and anniversaries, all carefully packed away. Found some interesting things during the process. Credit card statements showing thousands in debt she'd never mentioned. A hidden stash of emergency cash, about $800 taped to the back of her dresser. A journal where she'd written pros and cons lists about me versus Jordan, dated 3 months ago. My name had financial stability and good future father in the pros column. Jordan had exciting and passionate and history together on his side. Guess which way she was leaning based on her current location. I also had a meeting with my lawyer. Shared the screenshots, explained the situation, and asked about protecting myself. Arizona isn't a common law marriage state, so at least there was that. We'd never merged finances. My apartment was solely in my name and the car was legally mine. He advised documenting everything, the engagement termination, the car sale, the items in the apartment. He told me to communicate only in writing going forward. I felt calm, like performing necessary surgery. Did I feel like a complete idiot? Absolutely. But emotions weren't driving this bus. Logic was. She asked for space and no contact. She demonstrated the relationship was over by vacationing with her ex. I was simply respecting her request and protecting myself. The shop was quiet that weekend. I went in anyway just to have somewhere to be. Started reorganizing the tool room, deep cleaning equipment, updating our inventory system, all those things that get pushed aside during busy weeks. There's something therapeutic about bringing order to a space when your personal life is in chaos. Diego, my head mechanic, came in for a few hours to help with a rush job. Didn't ask why I was there on a Sunday, just handed me tools when I needed them. That's what I appreciate about the guys at the shop. They understand that sometimes you need to work with your hands to process what's happening in your head. According to Instagram, the best life vacation lasted another week. The countdown to meltdown was officially on. One small mercy in all of this, at least my Ducati was safe. Stacy had always complained about it being too dangerous, too expensive, a total waste of money. But I'd stood firm on keeping it. When Tristan picked me up from the dealership, he looked over at me and said, "Bike ride this weekend? You need it." He was right. Funny thing is, Stacy had actually tried to get me to sell the Ducati about 6 months into our relationship. We could use that money for a down payment on a bigger place, she'd said. Never mind that I already owned my apartment and had zero interest in taking on more debt for a bigger place we didn't need. The Ducati stayed. And now, I was grateful for that small victory. That Sunday morning, we took our bikes up through the mountains. Tristan on his Kawasaki, me on the Ducati. The kind of ride that demands your full attention. The focus it takes to handle those curves at speed, to watch the lean angles, the gravel patches. It's impossible to think about relationship drama when your body's locked into that rhythm. The only thing I did feel a little guilty about was Max. Stacy had technically agreed to us getting a dog, but she'd never really taken care of him. Always complained, whined about his fur, his energy, the cost of his food. Still, I knew he'd be confused when she didn't come back. Turns out I didn't need to worry. Max actually seemed happier with just me there, stretching across the whole couch, no one shooing him off. Meanwhile, Stacy's tropical getaway with Jordan dragged on, 10 full days of finding herself. And then D-Day arrived, Tuesday night. Around 9 p.m., I was sitting on the couch having a beer with Tristan, who insisted on being there in case it gets wild. Then we heard it. Keys jangling outside, some confused scraping at the lock, and then pounding. "Luke, open the door!" "My key isn't working." Tristan glanced at me. Showtime. I opened the door halfway. Stacy stood there, tan, furious, suitcase beside her. "What the hell? Why isn't my key working?" "Because I changed the locks," I said, calm and steady. Her eyes widened. "You what? Why would you do that?" "You asked for space and no contact, Stacy. I gave it to you. Permanently. Wedding's canceled too. Already called everyone." She blinked, panicked. "What are you talking about?" "I just needed some time to think." I pulled out my phone, scrolled, and showed her the screenshot Melissa sent me. "Think about this, what with Jordan and on your romantic beach getaway that you posted about." Her face went from angry to panic-stricken in a heartbeat. That was just... Melissa showed you that? That's not what it looks like." "Looks like my fiancée on vacation with her ex while I'm home planning our wedding," I said flatly. "Pretty self-explanatory. It was a last-minute thing," she stammered. "He was going through a hard time and needed someone to talk to." Tristan snorted behind me. "So you flew to Maui to be his therapist?" I asked. Her eyes darted past me to the empty parking spot. "Where's my car, Luke?" she demanded. The entitlement in her voice was unreal, like I'd hidden her toy. "It's not your car." "Never was," I said. "It's being sold. Title, loan, insurance, all in my name." "You're selling my car?" She actually stomped her foot. "You can't do that. I've been making payments. Payments for using my car, and which is now over. This is insane. I'm calling the cops." She whipped out her phone. Tristan started laughing. "Yeah, call them," he said. "Tell them your ex-fiancé sold his own car and changed the locks on his apartment after you cheated." "That'll go great." Stacy looked like she just noticed him. "This isn't your business." Tristan crossed his arms. "Made it my business when you decided to mess around on my best friend." She turned back to me, shifting gears. "Luke, baby, you're overreacting. Jordan means nothing to me. It was just a stupid trip to clear my head. I realized I want to be with you." I almost laughed. "Save the performance. Your stuff's boxed up. Text me when you want to pick it up." And that's when the elevator dinged. Out walked Brooke, her younger sister, 25, and a perfect mini-me. Same entitled attitude. Same expensive taste. Same habit of treating service workers like furniture. The only difference? Brooke hadn't found her own sucker to bankroll her lifestyle yet. "What's going on?" she demanded. Stacy immediately flipped on the waterworks. "He changed the locks! He sold my car! He canceled our wedding!" Brooke glared at me like I'd just committed a war crime. "After everything my sister has done for you, you just throw her out?" Tristan couldn't help himself. He laughed. "What exactly has she done for him? Besides taking a beach vacation with her ex?" I held up a hand. "Check her Instagram." "We're done." From inside the apartment, Max started barking at all the noise. Stacy's eyes widened. "Are you keeping Max too?" The audacity was breathtaking. "You mean the dog whose name you couldn't remember half the time? That dog?" Brooke jumped in, practically screaming now. "She needed space to think, not for you to ruin her life." "She made choices," I said evenly. "Now she gets to live with the consequences. Your stuff will be in the lobby tomorrow at noon. 1 hour window. If it's not picked up, it goes to Goodwill." Then I shut the door and locked it. Through the door, we could still hear Stacy's meltdown echoing down the hall. Tristan just shook his head. "Dude, bullet dodged. Want another drink?" Max came over, still watching the door, and rested his head on my knee. I scratched behind his ears. "It's just us now, buddy." Tristan raised his bottle. "To peace and better choices. To the most expensive lesson you'll ever learn," Tristan said. I clinked my bottle against his. "Worth every penny." Later that night, after Tristan left, I sat out on my balcony, looking over the city lights. For the first time in months, I felt like I could actually breathe freely. No more explaining why I needed to work late at the shop. No more defending time with my friends. I pulled out my phone and sent a quick text to my dad. "It's done. Locks changed, car sold, wedding canceled." His response came a minute later. "Proud of you, son. Come by for steaks this weekend. Bring Max." Then another line. "Your mom would have kicked her ass, by the way." That one made me smile. Mom had been gone for 6 years, but Dad was right. She would have seen through Stacy in a heartbeat. The next day was like watching someone realize gravity exists after stepping off a cliff. Stacy's texts started rolling in at 6 a.m. You can't do this to me. Where am I supposed to live? I need my car for work. We need to talk about this like adults. I made a mistake, but you're being cruel. I didn't respond to any of them. At noon sharp, Tristan and I loaded up her boxes and brought them to the lobby. I'd even organized everything by category, the kind of courtesy she didn't deserve, but I did it anyway. Because I'm not an animal. Stacy showed up not long after with Brooke and their mom Cheryl in tow. And Cheryl, the source of Stacy's entitlement, immediately went off. Luke, this is completely unacceptable behavior. Stacy made one mistake. She was confused. She's under so much pressure with the wedding. Not anymore, she's not, I said, gesturing to the boxes. Everything's here. You have 1 hour. My daughter lived there for a year without being on the lease, without paying rent, driving a car she didn't own. Seems like the free ride is over. Cheryl's face turned purple. Stacy was alternating between crying and glaring daggers at me. Brooke was on her phone, probably updating the rest of the family drama group chat. I left them to it. Told the doorman they had until 1 p.m., then went for lunch with Tristan. When we came back, they were gone, along with her stuff. Mission accomplished. But it didn't end there. The texts and calls multiplied. Stacy, Brooke, Cheryl, even their dad got in on it. When blocking their numbers didn't work, they started using friends' phones. And the narrative they were spinning? Something else entirely. According to them, I had brutally discarded Stacy over one misunderstanding, stolen her car, and kept her apartment. No mention of the beach vacation with her ex, of course. Then Stacy's social media went into overdrive. Vague posts about trusting the wrong person and healing from betrayal. A particularly dramatic one showed her staring wistfully out a window with the caption, "Sometimes the people you take a bullet for are the ones behind the trigger." The irony was thick enough to cut with a knife. Then our mutual friend started hitting me up. Dude, that's cold. Selling her car like that? Man, couldn't you have given her more time to find a place? Melissa, bless her, was shutting that down wherever she could. He has screenshots, people. She was on a romantic trip with her ex while engaged. Apparently, Stacy figured out Melissa was the one who sent me the screenshots, because soon after, Melissa texted me. She got me fired. Told our boss I was creating a hostile work environment by meddling in her personal life. And that pissed me off more than anything else. Melissa had done the right thing, and Stacy destroyed her job out of spite. I immediately called Melissa, told her I'd help with references, connections, whatever she needed. It was the least I could do. Melissa thanked me. I knew she was self-centered, she said, but I didn't think she'd go this far. I promised to put her in touch with some industry contacts who might be hiring. She had real skills. Stacy's vindictiveness shouldn't derail her career. That night, Tristan came over for our weekly gaming session. We fired up Call of Duty while Max lounged at our feet. My phone kept buzzing, Stacy again, using yet another friend's number. Tristan grabbed my phone between rounds and started reading them out loud in a high-pitched, mocking voice. You're making a huge mistake, Luke. I was confused, but I chose you. Please respond. He scrolled to the next one, adding dramatic flair. My mother is very disappointed in you and says you're behaving childishly. I clutch my chest in fake horror. Guess I'll just cry myself to sleep. On my Ducati. Tristan snorted, then read another. I hope you know you're breaking my heart. I cried all night thinking about our wedding. He nearly choked on his drink. Oh my God, she's seriously complaining about her vacation time after cheating on you. Then my phone buzzed again. Tristan looked down, read it, and burst out laughing. Dude, she just texted, I miss Max, he misses me too. Dogs need a mother. I looked at Max, who was happily chewing his favorite toy, completely unbothered. Yeah, I said dryly. He's clearly devastated. Look at him. Practically wasting away from grief. Tristan was still scrolling through my messages. Wait, here's one from her dad. He read it aloud. Luke, I've always respected you as a businessman, but your behavior towards my daughter is unacceptable. We expect you to make this right. Tristan looked up. What exactly does make this right mean? Give her back the car you paid for? Let her live in your apartment rent-free? I shrugged. Probably all of the above, plus a groveling apology for having the audacity to be upset about her cheating. The whole situation had become so absurd, it crossed straight into comedy. Stacy and her family lived in a world where actions never had consequences, at least not for them. In their version of reality, I was the villain for responding logically to her betrayal. At work, I focused on a new project, a vintage Honda CB750 a client had dropped off for a complete restoration. There's something therapeutic about tearing down an engine to its individual components, cleaning each part, and building it back up better than before. The shop became my sanctuary, a place where problems had logical solutions, and every task had a clear beginning and end. My employees noticed the change in me. Diego, my head mechanic, finally asked what was up after I spent 3 straight hours reconfiguring a wiring harness without taking a break. I gave him the highlight reel. His response was perfect, a slow nod, then, "Women, man." My cousin went through the same thing. "You want me to order those brake calipers for the Triumph while you finish that wiring?" That's what I needed. Practical solutions, not drama. The shop stayed open late that week as I threw myself into work. Nothing cures heartbreak like productivity and a bank account that's growing instead of bleeding money on someone else's desires. Dad stopped by the shop on Thursday with lunch, a tradition he'd started when I first opened the place. He'd bring sandwiches from this little deli near his house, and we'd eat in my office, talking about everything and nothing. "How you holding up?" he asked between bites. "Better than expected," I admitted. "Work helps," he nodded. "Your Uncle Dave gained 15 lbs after his divorce. Sat around eating microwave burritos and watching game shows." He looked at me. "You're doing it right. Stay busy, keep moving forward." Simple advice, but exactly what I needed to hear. 2 weeks after Stacy's return, the real harassment campaign started. First came the police. I got home from work to find a patrol car outside my building. 2 officers wanted to talk about a domestic dispute and allegations I was withholding personal property. I showed them the documentation my lawyer had prepared. Proof of car ownership, apartment lease in my name only, canceled wedding receipts, the screenshot of Stacy with Jordan, and explained I had given her all her possessions. They left satisfied this was a relationship issue, not a legal one. One officer actually gave me a knowing look as they were leaving. "Document everything from here on out," he advised quietly. These situations tend to escalate. Words of wisdom from someone who'd seen this play out before. The next day, I got a call from my landlord about a noise complaint. Apparently, an anonymous neighbor reported loud arguments and possible domestic disturbances. I explained the situation, thankfully had a good relationship with the property manager. She admitted she'd seen Stacy trying to tailgate residents into the building several times against policy. Then things escalated. Stacy and Brooke started showing up at my workplace, just happening to be in the lobby when I was leaving. Once, Stacy tried to force her way into the elevator with me, screaming about how I'd ruined her life. Diego and the guys formed a protective barrier when they saw what was happening. "Boss, want us to call security?" Diego asked, positioning himself between Stacy and me. I nodded and they escorted the sisters out. My team had my back, no questions asked. This was getting out of control. I filed a police report documenting the harassment, started recording every interaction, saved every text and voicemail, installed a security camera at my apartment door connected to my phone, and gave the front desk a photo of Stacy with instructions not to let her up under any circumstances. The breaking point came when I woke up to find my car's tires slashed. Security cameras caught Brooke doing it at 3 a.m. The footage was crystal clear, her face visible as she knelt by each tire, methodically puncturing them with what looked like a hunting knife. Police were called. Charges filed. The incident report put the damage at over $800. All 4 tires were high-performance ones I'd upgraded last year. Thankfully, my insurance covered it after the deductible, but the hassle of getting the car towed and fixed was a major inconvenience. I was paranoid about the Ducati after that. I started parking it in a secure garage a block away just in case. No way I was letting them get to my baby. That bike represented the reward for years of hard work. If they damaged it, I'm not sure I could have maintained my composure. That same day, I got an email from Jordan of all people. "Man, I'm sorry about all this. She told me you two were already over before our trip. I didn't know you were still engaged. She's been showing up at my place too. Just thought you should know." Turns out Stacy had fed him a complete fiction, that we'd broken up weeks before, that I was possessive and wouldn't accept it was over. When he found out the truth from mutual friends, he ended things immediately. Now she was showing up at his apartment unannounced, crying, demanding another chance. "Bullet dodged, brother," he said before hanging up. Later, I found out Stacy had been spreading rumors that I was abusive, that I controlled her finances, that I'd trapped her in the relationship. Classic Darvo. She was casting herself as the victim of a controlling monster rather than a woman who got caught cheating and lost her meal ticket. The problem with her narrative: too many people had seen the reality. My neighbors had seen me walking Max alone every night while she was inside watching Netflix. My employees had seen her showing up demanding money when her credit cards were maxed out. Our friends had seen how she treated service staff when she thought no one important was watching. Through it all, Tristan and Melissa were solid. Tristan even let Stacy know through a mutual friend that I was documenting everything for a restraining order. Melissa, despite losing her job, sent me additional screenshots of Stacy bragging about the beach trip to friends before she left. Luke thinks I'm just taking time to think, LOL. Meanwhile, Jordan and I will be living it up in paradise. The screenshots had timestamps, dates, the whole 9 yards, undeniable evidence of premeditated deception. I added it all to the growing file my lawyer was keeping. I called my dad after the tire slashing incident. They're escalating, I told him. Slashed my tires, showing up at work, spreading rumors. Makes sense, he said, surprisingly calm. How does any of this make sense? I asked. Son, you took away her free ride. People don't give up resources without a fight. Your uncle's ex-wife did the same. Keyed his truck, told the neighbors he was cheating. It's what happens when the gravy train stops rolling. He paused, then added, Got your security camera set up like I showed you? Yes, sir. I caught her sister on video with the knife. Good man. I filed for the restraining order. Had a mountain of evidence. The workplace incidents, the slashed tires, the constant harassment, the false police reports, dozens of messages from different numbers after being blocked. The hearing was scheduled. I was ready. The restraining order hearing was like watching a live-action version of the surprised Pikachu meme. Stacy showed up with Cheryl, both dressed like they were going to church, probably expecting sympathy from the judge. I showed up with my lawyer and a binder full of evidence. Stacy's strategy became clear quickly. Play the devastated, confused young woman who made one mistake and was now being punished excessively by a controlling ex. It might have worked if we didn't have the receipts. My lawyer methodically laid out the pattern of harassment. The judge flipped through the evidence with an increasingly stern expression and granted the restraining order immediately. 3 years, no contact within 500 feet of me, my home, or my workplace. That should have been the end, but Stacy's family had one more card to play. The desperation card. About a month after the hearing, Cheryl called. The family was in financial distress. Stacy couldn't hold a job without transportation. Brooke had legal bills from the vandalism charge. They needed help. Could I please reconsider selling Stacy her car back to her? Maybe loan them some money to get back on their feet. I laughed so hard. The absolute audacity. These people had tried to destroy my reputation, career, and property, and now wanted financial assistance. Cheryl, I said calmly, Stacy and Brooke are both in violation of the restraining order by having you contact me. I'm forwarding this call to my lawyer and the police. Don't call again. Later, I found out through the grapevine what happened next. Stacy had been fired from her job, repeatedly missing work because she didn't have a car, doesn't fly professionally. The beach trip had maxed out her credit cards. She'd been crashing with her parents but had succeeded in driving a wedge into their marriage with her constant demands. Jordan was long gone. He blocked Stacy after she showed up drunk at his apartment one too many times. Brooke had community service for the tire slashing, plus had to pay restitution. As for me, I sold the engagement ring and took a 2-week vacation to Europe solo. Posted exactly 0 photos online. When I got back, I painted the whole apartment, bought new furniture, and reclaimed my space. The place looked better than ever, a clean, functional space where a man and his dog could live in peace. Tristan and I meet weekly, and he's actually hitting it off with Melissa now, which is an unexpected silver lining. They've been dating for about a month. Sometimes the 4 of us, counting Max, hang out at my place for game nights. It's nice seeing 2 people who actually treat each other with respect. The shop was thriving, too. After that first week of fog, I threw myself into a big custom project, transforming a beat-up Harley Sportster into something special. Stripped it down to the frame, rebuilt the engine with performance parts, custom paint job with subtle metal flake that changed color depending on the light. Tristan had come by during the final assembly and whistled when he saw it. Man, you really outdid yourself on this one. The tank paint alone is worth whatever you're charging. The client who commissioned it was so impressed he referred 3 friends, all wanting similar work. Word of mouth in the motorcycle community is better than any advertising you could pay for. Diego and the crew had really stepped up during the whole Stacy drama too. There were days when I wasn't at my best, and they picked up the slack without complaint. When the Sportster project got featured in a motorcycle magazine, I made sure they all got credit and bonuses. A good team is worth their weight in gold. About 3 months after the restraining order, I was at a motorcycle show in Las Vegas displaying one of my custom builds. A woman came up and started asking detailed questions about the fabrication, work, not just the usual pretty comments, but specific technical questions that showed she knew her stuff. Sarah, 28, female, turned out to be an industrial designer who wrote a Triumph Street triple. We exchanged numbers professionally, but ended up texting about bikes, then other things. We've been dating casually for a couple months now. She has her own career, her own apartment, her own money. She scratches Max behind the ears exactly where he likes it. The first time Sarah came over, Max immediately brought her his favorite toy, something he'd never done with Stacy. Dogs know quality people when they meet them. Sarah came to Sunday lunch at my dad's house last week. They spent 2 hours talking about motorcycle engine design while I grilled steaks. Dad texted me later. She knows her stuff. Smart pick, son. High praise from a man who's suspicious of everyone by default. I learned more about myself in those few months than in the previous decade. Learned I'm stronger than I thought, that I have people in my corner who will show up when needed, and that sometimes the best thing you can do with toxic people is cut them out completely. These days, I'm too busy building bikes and building a better life to dwell on what might have been. Some lessons are expensive, but man, are they worth it.